back to the phone lines. We'll talk to Jim next in Bridgeport, Connecticut, listening on Bott Radio. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Hank. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I'd like to know if you could help me out with your understanding of the Eastern Orthodox concept of theosis.
Well, it's not just Eastern Orthodox. I mean, it is something that was as prevalent in the church in the West as in the East. In fact, right up until the time of the Reformation, pretty much everyone believed in theosis, that we become Christ bearers since his body and blood are distributed throughout our limbs, as Cyril of Jerusalem said. But Augustine said, as God became man, man becomes God. Or as Luther said, word became flesh, so flesh becomes word. The whole idea being is that we become, by grace, what God is by nature. So we partake of the means of grace that God gives to us, and through the means of grace, which center around the Eucharist or the Mass or the Lord's Supper, but is not exclusive to that. By partaking of the graces, we can become, as Peter put it, partakers in the divine nature. And that's been the teaching of the Church throughout its history. Again, right up until the time of Luther, who taught it and said that if he could disagree with the papists on anything, it would have been this very thing, that the Eucharist is the primary means by which you become a partaker of the divine nature.
Okay, and do you have any thoughts on orthodoxy in general? Or?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at orthodoxy in general, I think that you find that it is well within the pale of orthodoxy, with kind of a play on words in a sense, but it is certainly compatible with the essentials of the historic Christian faith. Now, there are areas that Catholics and Orthodox disagree on, and certainly that Protestants and Orthodox disagree on. But in terms of being compatible with the essentials of the Christian faith, absolutely. Orthodoxy is fantastic in that it uses earthly perceptible realities to point to spiritual verities. So it's constantly pointing you to the worship of God through prayer, praise, the proclamation of the Word, through the sacraments, the liturgy pointing to the Eucharist. I mean, it is the Eucharist in essence. And so, yeah, it's the early church. That was the church up until the split in 1054 between East and West, and essentially what the church was teaching up until the time of the Reformation and even afterwards.